Alright, so I've been doing a little more testing with the VBC compiler. I'm going to call it VBC. I know there's an extra C, but it doesn't roll off the tongue that easy. So VBC. Um, Let me just go through my first examples here. So this is a modification of Robert Peck's VSprite demo. That's in the following book. Let me see what it's called. Programmer's Guide to the Amiga. So I've read through a few of these chapters and tested a few of the demo programs. They weren't written for VBC, but with a few modifications, they do compile. And so this is one of them. I've modified this enough that it compiles cleanly with the VBC. I'll go through that in a minute. I just wanted to show that I replaced the default image, which let me exit this and show you what it was. I believe the original one was, is it? Oh, okay, let's try example one. Yeah, here we go. So this was the default example in the book for VSprite, and it works pretty well. So I've been able to modify this and make it compile with VBC. And let me go through the second example. And this is just a 2-bit plane bitmap, and I've also modified this from Robert Peck's book. And this also compiles cleanly. I'll go through that again. And I just wanted to show that all this works in Kickstart 1.3. So let's go. Same example. And now you'll notice the colors are different because the palettes are different between 1.3 and 3.1. Okay, so let's get to the compiler now. So let me bring up, here we go. So here's the code. Let's go through the first example. And so I did modify the include headers here. They're slightly different. Even if you don't modify them, VBC compiles everything, but there's a lot of warnings. I did have to modify the main. I put int main instead of void. I think there was an underscore maybe in this example, or maybe it was in another example. Anyway, remove the underscore and do a return 0 at the end, or where you exit main. I did modify how the libraries are closed. There was some additional typecasting you have to put. Here we go. So I had to add this piece of code to make it compile cleanly. It would still compile, but it would give a warning. And the same thing for here as well. There was a few other places as well that I did change, but these are minor changes. Anyway, so what I'd like to do is show you how to change the VSprite to a different image. And let me do that right now. Okay. So we're going to change to Amiga 4 colors, and this allows us to create VSprites if we resize it to 16 by 16. VSprites don't have a height limit, so if you want to create something bigger, you can resize it to, let's say, 64 by 64 and use the first 16 pixels. You can select the clip and let's go 16. Yeah, and you would go down as far as you want. but for now, I'm just going to stick to the 16 by 16 because it's easier to work. And let's just change this to big giant crosshair, and because that'll be easy to draw. And let's use all the colors. And let's just make the center here white. Okay. All right, that's good enough. And file export. I've reorganized everything now so that the submenu after export is the programming language you're using. And in this case, we're going to select Amiga C. I'm using VBC by default, so everything it generates will be directly compatible with the VBC. So I'm going to choose this option here, VSprite Bitmap Array, and I'm going to call it uh, cross image. Okay, and I'm going to flip back to my editor, VS Code here, and I'm just going to open up a new tab, and we saved it on E. And what did I call it? Cross. There we go. So this is the code it generated. Um, let's just take the whole thing, copy it, go back to our example, and let's just place it right underneath. We don't need to get rid of the current one. But if you look at the code that it's generated, it puts the chip keyword here, and there's a double underscore in front of it. If you're using an older compiler like the SAS compiler, you can remove this and it will compile and place the array in chip memory. For VBC, double underscore. Other compilers that don't support this, I'll go through how to do that as well. Let's just try and get this to compile with the new image. So we need the name. Let's scroll down and I'll show you the areas we have to change. All right, so right here, the image data, we just need to replace this with our cross image. Let's save it, and I will compile with VBC now, if I can find it. Here we go. Let me bring the my command window in front here. So we're doing VBC1. So here's the command line. So your code and what your final executable is going to be -O. We're going to call it 1. And this is the additional switches I use for to compile it properly. If you don't, some programs will compile, others will not. But for the Amiga, I've had great success with this combination. The additional plus kick 1.3 here, it adds support for Kickstart 1.3. If you leave this out, it will still compile, but it won't run in Kickstart 1.3. It'll run in Kickstart, I believe, 2 and up. I'm not quite sure. You can test it out. But for now, everything I'm doing works for both, so I'm going to leave it in. And let's compile, and it compiled cleanly. If there's errors, it will display errors. The other thing I do, I need to copy it into the Amiga shared folder. So we want to copy 1, and we want to overwrite that. So hopefully, if I did everything right, there's our cross. But you'll notice the colors are wrong. And let's go back. And we didn't export the colors here. So if we go to Palette, Export, and again, Amiga C. Now this is a different part. Before we were in this export for the file image. Here we're in the palette export. So it's a different location. And we're going to choose a VSprite color array. So I'm going to call it cross image pal. Save it again. Back to our editor. And let's load that up. And let's look for it again. Cross image pal. That's what we want. Let's copy this. And go back to our example program. All right, so our colors are cross image pal. Let's copy that. Scroll down again and find the location where we enter the palette colors. So here it is right here. So if we replace that with our new palette, and let's go back and recompile again. And hopefully this time around, it will look proper. There we go, with the right colors now. And if we go to our other Amiga session, let's run that again. And that looks right. So this is what we drew, and this is what's appearing. All right, I'm gonna put this over to this side. And let's close this down. Close this down. And let's go to our second example. Okay, so this works the same way. You can use this right now in this demo. I'm just using the draw image command and using the intuition window to display this image, but this is in the same format as the Bob objects are. So it works the same way if you wanted to use it as a Bob uh, object. So I'm just going to demonstrate again. Let's switch our palette. Let's clear this. Let's switch our palette to we can do 4 colors still, that's fine. So let's draw something completely different. Now, let's, yeah, I'm just going to draw some circles here. And let's Let's see what other colors. Got the blue, but that's not going to show. Yeah, I think we got all the colors. Okay, again, we go to export, and this time we're going to choose bitmap array. And we'll call this square image. All right. And here it is. And we'll do the same thing again as before, just copy and paste it into the right example program. And again, we're just gonna copy the name and scroll down to find out. So in this case, it's right here. Replace it with square image. And again, we'll compile. And this time it's example 2. And we'll copy example 2 into our shared directory. And let's see if it works. Oh, that's not right. Okay. I think I know what I did wrong. Let me just look at the size here. Yeah, this is 16 by 16, and I think I have to change it in the source. Because the other image was, I think, 32 by 32. So yeah, we change it right here. 16 by 16. Oh, and the depth we have to change to 2 because it's 2 bit planes. So that should work. Should work. Okay. All right. And let's try this again. Example 2. Almost right. What did I miss? Okay, yep. So we have to change this. So when we're using the pick plane, we have to increase this to the highest number of colors minus 1. So it would be 4. This would be 3. I think. Let's see if we got it right this time. And let's try again. And there we go. We got it right this time. So it took a little doing, but let's just make sure it looks the same. the same. Okay, so the other thing I was going to show you is if your compiler doesn't support the chip modifier in the array. So let's go back to our editor, if I can find it. There we go. Okay, so let's suppose we couldn't do this. Let's suppose that our compiler didn't support this, and so here you put 0, and I have this commented out, but if we uncomment it and here we go. Right here, we're allocating memory dynamically using the allocate mem function and using the copy mem to copy it into that location. So we just have to change this. Save it. Now, let's suppose, I'm just going to comment this. Okay. So this should still compile, but because we don't have the chip keyword here, it should not display anything. Uh, let's go put it back in here. Where did I remove it? Okay, so instead of 0, we'll put it back in just to prove that it shouldn't display because it's not in chip memory. So again, we're compiling the same thing, copying it over. Yes. So now it should not display anything. So let's run the same example, example 2. Well, actually, it showed some garbage there. Which actually I wasn't expecting. Huh. So in 3.1, it doesn't display anything, which is right. I wonder why it's displaying it in. Let's try again. Yeah, strange. Okay, well, I'll have to figure that out another day, but let's go back and do it properly. So let's put 0 here. Uncomment this. Square image, square image. Okay, so we're allocating memory properly this time, and we're copying the proper array into the chip memory. So it should work on both now perfectly. Again, the same thing. Okay, it's a warning. Let's see if we can get away with just the warning. So let's see. Yep, it works. Let's go to the 3.1 instance, and it works here as well. You'll notice the colors are again different because the Amiga 3.1 color palette is different. Um, so this is the default colors, and it shows properly for 1.3 because that's the default palette uh, in the editor. All right, so that's it. I've been learning quite a bit with VBC. It turns out I'm picking things up much faster than before. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe I'm just more patient these days, and it's turning out that I've learned a lot more in the past few days than I've learned previous times that I have attempted to learn C. So I will put these demos in my GitHub directory, and you can test them out. I will be releasing some more demos to show other features like the loading of the full palette and some other items, and I will be doing this in the Pascal compilers as well. I'm playing around with the HiSoft and the free Pascal cross compiler for the Amiga, and so far everything works well. They're the same way, so I'll be releasing some code to allow you to add your graphics in there as well.